They said no one survived the night in that place. But he went in anyway. What they found the next morning was not human.
I had always loved the outdoors. Hiking, fishing, camping, I craved it all. But up until last summer, I had never gone into the woods completely alone. I always had friends or family along. Safety in numbers, laughter by the fire. Someone else to blame if the tent collapsed in the middle of the night. But after a particularly stressful year, I felt the strange pull towards solitude. I wanted silence. No phones, no deadlines, no small talk. Just me, the forest, and the sky. When I found a trail that led to a hidden lake deep in the state forest, I thought it was perfect. Hardly anyone went there anymore. The ranger said it used to be a popular campsite decades ago, but people stopped coming after the roads washed out in a flood. Now it was just miles of trail. Secluded. Peaceful. Exactly what I thought I wanted. I started the hike on a Friday afternoon. The air thick with the warmth of late summer. The trail wound through towering pines, their trunks rising like pillars in some ancient cathedral. The sun flickered through the branches, dappling the path in shifting patterns. I hiked steadily, back heavy on my shoulders, the silence of the woods broken only by the occasional bird call or the crunch of my boots. By late afternoon, I reached the lake. It was beautiful, I'll admit that much. A mirror of dark water ringed by dense forest. The surface so still it reflected the clouds as if it were glass. The shoreline was small but flat, the perfect spot to pitch a tent. The silence there was heavier somehow. Not the peaceful hush of a quiet park, but something deeper. Like the forest itself was holding its breath. I ignored that uneasy thought and set up camp. Tent pitched, firewood gathered, a small fire crackling as the sun sank behind the trees. I made dinner, instant noodles and jerky, and sat staring at the flames. The reflection of the fire rippled across the surface of the lake, orange and red, dancing in the dark water. For the first few hours, it was exactly what I'd hoped for. Quiet, isolated, no buzzing phone in my pocket. Just the fire, the lake, and the night sky. But then, things shifted. The first sign was the silence. You don't realize how alive the forest is until it stops. No crickets, no frogs, not even the whisper of wind through the branches. Just silence. My fire popped loudly, the only sound. I felt it then, that prickling along the back of my neck, the instinct that says you're being watched. I told myself it was nothing, just nerves from being alone. I added another log to the fire and tried to focus on the flames. But the feeling didn't leave. If anything, it grew. I shined my flashlight toward the tree line, but the beam dissolved into the darkness. I thought I saw movement, just a flicker. But when I aimed the light, there was nothing there. The silence pressed harder. Finally, I gave in and zipped myself inside the tent. Knife under my pillow, flashlight in hand. I tried to laugh at myself for being paranoid, but the laugh died in my throat. Because as I lay there, I heard it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, circling the tent. I froze. My heart hammered in my chest, blood roaring in my ears. The steps were soft, but unmistakable. They stopped just outside, on the side where my head lay. I didn't breathe, didn't move. The silence stretched, then scraping, like fingers trailing lightly down the tent fabric. I clutched the knife so tightly, my hand hurt. I wanted to burst out, flashlight blazing, knife ready. But terror pinned me down. Instead, I lay there, every muscle tense, listening as the footsteps circled again. and then faded into the forest. I didn't sleep that night. At dawn, the forest seemed normal again. Birds chirped, a breeze rippled the lake, everything alive and bright. For a moment, I thought I'd imagined the whole thing, but then I saw them. Footprints in the dirt around my tent, bare feet, large, human. They circled my camp, leading in from the woods and vanishing back into them. I told myself it had to be a hiker, someone messing with me, but no one hiked out here anymore. The ranger had said that himself, and the prints were bare. Who walks barefoot miles into the wilderness? The uneasy pit in my stomach deepened, but I didn't want to leave yet. Pride, maybe, or stupidity. I'd come for solitude, and I wasn't about to let my imagination chase me out. I stayed. The second night was worse. I built the fire bigger, kept it roaring as long as I could. I sat there clutching my knife, staring at the dark tree line. Hours crawled by. Then, the fire flickered, died suddenly low, though I'd just added wood. And from across the lake, I saw it. A light. Small, flickering, like another campfire, but wrong. The glow was bluish gold. It danced just at the far edge of the water. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. The light stayed, and then it moved. Slowly, deliberately, drifting along the shoreline toward me. Not footsteps this time, not the rustle of a person moving through the woods. Just the light, gliding closer and closer. I stumbled back, nearly tripping into the tent. My fire sputtered again, dimming lower, as if reacting to that other glow. When it reached the halfway point of the lake, the light stopped, hovered, and then it went out. The forest fell into total blackness. I couldn't take it. I dove into the tent, zipped it shut, and curled in the corner, knife shaking in my hand. The silence dragged on, broken only by the pounding of my own pulse. At some point, I must have passed out from exhaustion, because the next thing I knew, the sun was rising. The third day I wanted to leave. I really did. But when I hiked back toward the trail, I couldn't find it. I followed where I thought the path was, but it twisted wrong. The landmarks I remembered, gone. Hours passed, and I found myself right back at the lake, trapped. By now, I was desperate. I decided I'd make it one more night, and then try again at first. Light, but that third night was the worst of all. The forest went silent early, long before sunset. Even the breeze died. The lake's surface turned glassy, reflecting the deepening red of the sky. I built the fire tall, but its warmth gave me no comfort. Then the voices started. Faint, from across the lake at first, whispers, carrying over the still water. Too far to make out words, but human, many of them, murmuring. I staggered to the edge, shining my flashlight across the lake. Nothing. Just the black trees on the far side, but the whispers grew louder. Closer surrounding. I backed toward the fire, clutching the knife. My heart thundered. And then the voices stopped. A single sound followed. A splash. Something had entered the water. I froze, light shaking in my hand as I aimed it at the lake. Ripples spread across the surface, moving steadily toward me. Closer, closer, I dropped the flashlight, grabbed my bag, ran. I didn't care about the trail anymore. I didn't care about getting lost. I just ran, crashing through the underbrush, branches whipping my face, lungs burning. Behind me, I swore I heard it. The splash of something huge moving through the water, then the crunch of steps on shore. I didn't stop until I saw lights. Headlights on a dirt road. I burst out of the trees, screaming, waving my arms. A truck screeched to a stop. A ranger jumped out, wide-eyed. They took me to the station, gave me water, tried to calm me down. I told them everything. The footsteps, the blue fire, the whispers. They exchanged looks I didn't like. Finally, one ranger sighed. "That lake's been abandoned for a reason," he said quietly. "You're not the first to see things there." I demanded answers, but they wouldn't say more. Just warned me never to go back. And I haven't. But sometimes, late at night, when the city's quiet, I swear I still hear it. The whisper of footsteps circling my bed. The faint lap of water against a shore that isn't there. And once, just once, I saw it. A faint blue glow flickering outside my window. Watching, waiting. We were only supposed to camp one night. Just one night under the stars, away from the noise of the city. That's what Chloe had promised when she invited me. "It'll be fun," she'd said, eyes gleaming, the way they always did when she was up to something. Ryan and Mia came along too. The four of us had been friends since college, bound by late-night drives and ill-advised adventures. But as we lugged our gear deeper into the forest, I had a gnawing sense this time was different. The air felt heavier here. The trees older, thicker, leaning in as if listening. We found a clearing by dusk, wide enough for 2 tents and a fire pit. The ground was soft with pine needles, the silence broken only by the wind. Perfect, we told ourselves. Perfect, but the first night was anything but. We built a fire, cracked open beers, and laughed louder than the woods seemed to like. Shadows danced around us. Ryan told his usual ghost stories, voice low and dramatic. Mia rolled her eyes but leaned closer anyway. It was around midnight when the fire burned low that we heard it, a sound no one wanted to name. At first I thought it was wind through the roots, but no, it was sharper, wetter, a sob, coming from beneath us. We froze. The fire popped, sparks jumping into the night. Another sob followed, then a choked cry. It was coming from the ground, directly beneath our feet. Mia was the first to speak. "Tell me you guys hear that." We all nodded. No one wanted to admit it, but none of us could deny it. Ryan grabbed a flashlight and scanned the clearing. Nothing. Just trees pressing in close. But the cries grew louder, more desperate, like a child's voice echoing through the earth. "Help, please. It hurts." The four of us exchanged looks. Chloe's face had gone pale. "What the hell is under us?" I whispered. We spent the next hour searching. We scoured the clearing, kicking at pine needles, probing with sticks. And then Mia found it. A hollow sound where her boot struck. A patch of ground that rang differently. We cleared it with frantic hands, uncovering a trapdoor half buried beneath roots and dirt. Old wooden, iron-hinged. It looked centuries old. The cries came louder now, spilling through the cracks. "Don't open it," I said immediately. My chest was tight. Every instinct screamed no, but Ryan was already prying at the latch. With a groan, the trapdoor lifted. A smell hit us, damp earth, mold, and something sour, like rot. The cries stopped. We shone our flashlights into the hole. A staircase carved into dirt, descending into blackness. "Hell no," Mia whispered. "Absolutely not." Ryan grinned nervously. "What if someone's down there? What if they need help?" "No one's down there," I said. My voice shook. "No one alive." But Chloe was already pulling on her headlamp. "We can't just leave it." And before I could stop her, she climbed down. The air grew colder as we descended. Moisture clung to the walls, the dirt slick and uneven. Our beams barely cut the darkness. The cries returned, softer now, further down. A child's voice echoing. We followed it deeper, deeper, until the trapdoor above was just a pinprick of light. The staircase ended in a tunnel. Wooden beams braced the ceiling, old and splintering. Rusted chains dangled from hooks. The crying stopped. We stood in silence, our breaths loud. Then Ryan's beam caught something on the wall. Scratches, thousands of them. Deep gouges in the dirt, clawed by fingernails. Some still had fragments embedded. Mia gagged. We need to go. Now but Chloe whispered, listen. And we did. From further down the tunnel came laughter. Not a child's anymore. Deeper, rougher, cruel. We ran. Back up the stairs, tripping, scrambling. But as we climbed, the trapdoor slammed shut above us. Darkness swallowed us whole. Ryan pounded at the door screaming. Mia sobbed. My flashlight flickered and died. Only Chloe's beam remained, trembling in her hands. The laughter grew closer, crawling through the tunnel toward us. Run, I hissed. We bolted back down through the tunnel, praying for another way out. The air grew colder, the walls narrower, the laughter echoing from every direction. And then, we saw them. Figures in the dark, dozens, thin, gaunt. Their eyes glowing faintly white. Their mouths stretched too wide. They weren't crying. They weren't laughing. They were waiting. I don't remember how we escaped. The next thing I knew, I was lying in the clearing, dawn breaking over the trees. The trapdoor was gone. Nothing but pine needles and dirt. My friend stood beside me, pale and shaking. None of us spoke. None of us asked questions. We packed in silence and left the forest behind. But that night back home, as I tried to sleep, I heard it again. A sob, faint, muffled, drifting up through the floorboards. I never planned to find the cabin. In fact, I never even planned to go that deep into the forest. I was only supposed to be out for a few hours. A simple hike, nothing more. The kind of trail where you sweat a little, breathe in the clean air, snap some photos, and return home with sore legs and a satisfied grin. That's all. But when the sun dipped lower than I expected, and the trail markers seemed fewer and farther between, I realized I'd miscalculated. Worse, I hadn't told anyone exactly where I was going. A rookie mistake for someone who prided himself on being outdoorsy. By the time I admitted I was lost, night had already begun to creep between the trees. The forest changed with the fading light. What had been warm and green only hours before turned shadowy and endless. The trunks rose black against a deepening sky, branches clawing at one another in the dark. My headlamp beam cut a narrow path ahead, but beyond it, everything was void. I told myself I'd be fine. I had food, water, gear. I could make a shelter and wait until morning. But when I heard it, the snap of a branch not far off, panic set in. There was something out there. At first I thought deer, maybe a bear. I tightened my grip on the small hatchet in my pack and tried to calm my breathing. But the footsteps didn't fade. They circled, always just outside the light. That's when I saw it. A glow through the trees, dim, warm, flickering. A lantern maybe, or firelight. Relief surged through me. Another camper, someone who could help. I pushed through the underbrush, stumbling toward the glow. Branches scratched my arms, tore at my clothes, but I didn't care. Human presence meant safety. The trees parted, and there it was. A cabin. Small, weathered, sagging slightly to one side. Its windows glowed faintly yellow, though the glass looked old and fogged. Smoke curled from a crooked chimney. I hesitated then. Something about the cabin felt wrong. It looked like it hadn't been lived in for decades, yet light burned inside. But the sound of footsteps behind me made the choice for me. I bolted up the porch, pounded on the door. Hello? Anyone here? I'm lost. The door creaked open on its own. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with dust and something sweeter. Rotting wood, maybe. A single lantern burned on a table, its flame low but steady. Hello? I called again. My voice cracked. No answer. The cabin was one room, a bed in the corner, a stone fireplace, shelves sagging with books swollen from damp. The floorboards groaned under my weight. No one was there. And yet the lantern burned. I should have left. I know that now. But exhaustion and fear clouded my judgment. I shut the door, dropped my pack, and sat on the bed. It creaked but held. The silence was suffocating. No wind outside. No insects. Just the faint hiss of the lantern. I must have dozed off because I woke to darkness. The lantern had gone out, and I wasn't alone. I heard breathing, slow, steady, not mine. From the far corner, where the shadows were thickest, I froze. My body screamed to run, but terror pinned me down. My eyes adjusted, and I thought, just for a second, I saw movement. A figure, half hidden in shadow, watching. I fumbled for my headlamp, snapped it on. The corner was empty, but the bed beside me was warm. The next hours blurred into madness. I lit the lantern again, but its flame guttered low, no matter how I adjusted it. The air grew colder, my breath fogging. Then the noises started, scratching beneath the floorboards. Slow, deliberate, like nails dragging along wood. Then a thud. Then whispers, muffled as if spoken through the walls. I pressed my hands over my ears. It didn't help. At some point, I couldn't take it. I yanked the door open and bolted into the night, but the forest had changed. Where there had been pines, now there were twisted skeletal trees. Their branches knotted into clawed shapes, blotting out the sky. The ground was soft, spongy, reeking of rot. My headlamp flickered, dimmed. I spun in circles, disoriented. The cabin was gone. No, worse, it wasn't gone. It was everywhere. Through the trees, I saw it again. The same crooked chimney, the same glow in the windows. No matter which way I ran, the cabin waited ahead. My lungs burned, my legs ached. Still I ran. And still the cabin appeared. Finally stumbling, gasping, I collapsed on its porch. The door creaked open. I was back inside. The whispers grew louder, clearer. Stay. You're ours now. Stay. I clawed at the door, the windows, but they wouldn't budge. The lantern's light pulsed, casting long shadows that writhed like living things. And then I saw them. Figures emerging from the dark corners, pale, thin, their faces blurred, shifting like smoke. Empty eyes fixed on me. One leaned close, its breath cold on my skin. "You found us," it whispered. "Now you'll never leave." I don't remember what happened after that. Just fragments, screaming, darkness, the sensation of falling endlessly. When I woke, I was lying on the forest trail. Morning light streamed through the trees. Birds chirped. The world was normal again. My pack was beside me, my headlamp, my hatchet. But the cabin was gone. I staggered back to the trailhead, half believing it had all been a nightmare, until I opened my pack that night, safe at home. Inside, tucked between my clothes, was the lantern. Its flame still burned,